And it begins. I didn't test this. Okay, good. It works every week, so that's good. Here we go. Podcast number 17. It's amazing. We're here. Hello, everybody. Today we're going to pay a bit more attention to the chat. So, if you're here and you have questions and want to join in on the discussion, we'll try to read your chat out loud so that the people listening to this episode on Spotify will know what you asked and have better context. So that's something we all should keep in mind together for this episode. This time we're talking about actual, like, instead of some kind of like meta concept or some kind of things surrounding Twitch culture, we're actually talking about streaming, like gear, budgeting for buying gear, and equipment. Is it important? I think this question comes up way too often. So equipment, and first of all, I'm probably the person who has the most to say on this subject. I'm gonna do my best to not like take over the entire podcast with just me talking.
And we're going to do our very best not to just answer every question with, well, Sonny told me to do this.
That's literally my approach.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I want to kind of get out of the way is the common things that I see happening in the over Twitch community, things people have brought up to me. Is equipment important? And I think a lot of times this is something that YouTubers or people in the streaming coaching space will kind of try to downplay. Or there's like two extremes, right? You have people who just want to like tell you to get the best equipment, the most expensive things ever. And then you got people that like tell you gear doesn't matter. And there was a thread recently I saw on Twitter. People were trying to discuss this, and it was literally like just the extremes in the comments. Gear matters. It's super important to have high quality, this, that, the other. And then people saying, no, gear doesn't matter. What matters is you're entertaining to watch, and that people will like what hanging out with you and all of this stuff. And I think that these extremes are where there's like the most danger. It's actually somewhere in the middle that you find the truth, the balance. So first thing I want to ask each and every one of us, I'll end with my opinion on this first topic because I have the most to say probably. But let's start with Snazzy to give us your take on, does gear matter? Is gear important, and how has your gear either may have been a headache or a problem or good for your stream, that kind of stuff?
So, I am of the strong opinion that gear does not matter until it does.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Real deep. We're already digging deep.
Until your microphone sounds like you're trying to yell from another side of a football field, right? Your gear doesn't matter until your camera literally is like at 3 frames per second, right? Like the only time that your gear really gets noticed, and it becomes a problem, is when it's not acting the way you want it to, right? When it's acting outside of its the boundaries you set for it. Honestly, like it's kind of a non-answer, but it's the best answer I can give. It's like your gear is important because your gear is what gets you across, right? But at the same time, there is a limit. There's a plateau to what gear will or how far gear will bring you, right? You can have the best setup in the world. If it's not tuned properly, it's not the best setup in the world, right? You can have the most expensive camera, but if you don't have all the other stuff that it takes to process what that camera can do, right? What's the difference between that and a webcam at that point if you're not utilizing it fully, right? So I think it's, like you said, it's a balance, but I lean a little more towards the gear doesn't matter side as long as it works.
Okay. It doesn't matter unless it works. That's actually a good, probably one of the main things we're going to be discussing in this episode. So, have you ever had a piece of gear that when you upgraded it, you're like, okay, this made a big difference?
Microphone.
Okay.
Easy.
Yeah.
You could tell the difference.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get into that for sure, because that's probably the biggest one we're going to talk to people about. Okay, Pickles. Let's go to you.
Yes.
Your experience with gear has the most interesting, I think.
Yeah, probably.
So same question. Does gear matter? And why? And what gear have you upgraded that made you feel a difference?
I think gear matters a lot more than people give it credit for, because it's something that a lot of people don't know enough about to make like a production good. You know what I mean? So like, if you've ever been in a stream and somebody says the audio's a little weird, everybody else in chat will say it sounds fine to me, except for like, I don't know, you, except for Sonny. But that's because like this is his job, like it's his profession. So like, I don't think enough people have a clue on what good gear does to help to know that to know its importance, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to. What I'm trying to say.
Okay. Was there any piece of gear that you bought where you were like, yes?
Soundboard.
Soundboard. Yep. Again,
100%.
audio. Yeah. Okay. We'll get into that more too. What's that? What's that soundboard? Raise your hand if you have a soundboard. Oh, snazzy.
Oh.
It's all right.
Snazzy,
Someday.
no.
Someday. Okay.
I have one behind me. Look.
Yeah. I don't think that's a
Sounds
soundboard. Okay. Eat your meats. Same question. Do you need me to repeat it?
Sure.
Okay,
You know
tell
what?
us-
Repeat the question.
Does gear matter? Does gear get in the way? Does it matter? Yes or no? And what piece of gear is the most important for you?
Okay. Yes, I think gear matters when it comes to leveling the playing field. And I agree with what Snazzy said about diminishing returns at certain points. I am not good with stuff that involves like
I am not
No.
good with stuff.
knobs and dials and like technology. So I think that I took a stepwise approach for updating and changing gear and changing what I'm using, so that I think if you go like full bore right out the bat and you're not someone who's really already competent, it can be like, it still is incredibly overwhelming. I would say in most cases, if you want to prioritize stuff, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about this, but prioritizing audio is probably going to be number one, right? And there's a certain level where additional audio quality doesn't really make as much of a difference, but once you start watching streamers or streaming with good audio, man, you notice people who don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
and considering even today we have people that are listening, right, versus watching this, and a lot of people will listen to streams in the background. I do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you can hear clearly, if you can have really good audio quality, I think that's a really great way to prioritize your spending and to level the playing field. But I definitely am not very competent in stuff that involves technology. So it's been a huge learning curve, and having people that are more competent help me has been such a lifesaver. You know, YouTube videos are really challenging because they're so variable and they're so unreliable. But sometimes that's what we have to lean on too. So I don't know. I just do what I'm told. and
Best
it
piece of
worked out.
upgrade. What's the best upgrade you've done so far?
Oh, the soundboard.
Okay.
The soundboard. I was going to hold on to this because I wanted to continue to have important things to say throughout the hour, but I'll say it now. Being able to hear myself has
Oh, this is
been-
a topic. This is a topic.
changer.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Let's hang on
Yes.
to that for sure.
Okay.
That deserves to be an actual discussion in this because we are going to talk about sound a lot. So, chat's saying better sound is better image, basically better communication. That's true. So, my take. Okay. Does gear matter? Yes, gear absolutely does matter. By gear matters. Now let me break this down as best I possibly can. I don't think you need an SM7B. I don't think you need.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a $400 mic. I don't think you need the most expensive gear. That is not what matters. Actually, I would say that's actually a waste. I would rather people buy the best, cheapest possible option and just be done with that section of their stream for a very long time and focus on other upgrades. Put your money into things like a Mister, things that solve other problems on streaming. Because I think there's pieces of gear that are actually important. If you want to stream PlayStation 5, you don't have to have the most expensive capture card on the planet. You are going to need a couple pieces of gear, but that gear could cost you $40 to $50 for everything that you need to make the PlayStation 5 work. Snazzy is a good example of this because I sent him the gear he needed to stream his PlayStation 5. And it's a $10 capture card he's using. We're talking about the cheapest capture card you could possibly get. Has anyone complained, Snazzy, about your image quality on your stream?
No, but I have because it skips sometimes. But
Yeah.
that's because it is a $10 capture card.
Yeah.
The fact that it works at all is probably a miracle in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
So
it doesn't capture audio right. When you go budget. So here's the thing. You guys
when you go low.
when you guys all said this, and this is the most important aspect of what we're talking about. The gear is not what really matters the most. What matters is you being able to use it. You being able to get into the best possible situation with what you currently have. I would rather you take a $12 used USB, Rock Band microphone, and then you get the right settings in OBS, the right filters to make that microphone sound good, than spend $100 on a Yeti, which will never sound good. Okay? It will always sound like a Yeti. You can try to make it sound good, and then you have to invest in good, a mic arm and get it right on your mouth and turn it way down. And I can get the Yeti to sound good, but I don't trust most streamers to be able to do that. So if you are going to buy whatever you buy, you have to put the time in to make it sound perfect. When I first started streaming, we all have a test channel, right? Who doesn't have a test channel? You don't have
I have one.
Everybody has a test channel, right? Everyone should have a test channel. This is a place for you to test your stream and then watch the VOD and make sure it sounds good so that you're not going live on your own channel. You should have a test channel or a bot channel where you can turn your stream on, get friends like me to go check it out, make sure it sounds good to them, make sure everything looks good, check over your stream. I spend hours, even when I was streaming a ridiculous amount of time, I would go live on the days where I wasn't actually streaming on my channel, and I would tweak and test and try to get the best possible sound out of what I did have. I didn't have money to go out and buy new stuff. Now, I'm kind of a tech nerd and have a bunch of equipment to begin with. Plus, I transitioned my business from a production company making YouTube videos, and I used to do, I still do music production. And so that gave me kind of an edge because I have equipment, but it's all so old. We're talking about really old equipment. My first soundboard was 10 years old at the point when I was using it when I first started streaming. So it's not necessarily about having the newest, most expensive gear, right? I actually don't tell people to go out and buy the newest, most expensive thing. You guys are all probably can testify to this as people that I've given guidance to for what you should buy. Snazzy, what microphone are you using?
You can't really see it. I just realized it's the Samson Q2U.
Highly Pickles, what microphone are you using?
The Samsung Q2U.
Now,
Don't ask me that question. I don't know.
you're using the BCD one. I had the same mic as me.
Okay, I thought.
It's fine. The Samsung Q2U, and we have Hylian Pickles is using it on XLR on a soundboard, and we've got Snazzy using it on USB.
Correct.
And it is a great microphone. And you can literally just, if there's one investment any streamer makes first, it should be that microphone, because you can use that microphone forever. It is so good. You, as a streamer, you'll never need a better microphone. Now you can get better microphones, but it's not going to be a massive upgrade to go from what they're using to what Eat Your Meats and I are using. This is not a game changer by any means. So, and that microphone costs less than the Yeti. In fact, some of the mics that people are buying for their stream, you could buy 3 Samsung Q2Us for the price of the one microphone that you guys are. I've seen people buy, and it drives me crazy. I'd rather you buy a Samsung Q2U. It's like a 16-year-old microphone. This is not a brand new microphone. This has been out for a long time. Just people don't know about it, sadly. But even to that point, you still need to dial your gear in. It's got to sound good. The one thing that gives you an edge with a mixer and the Q2U is that you can hear your own voice when you plug into it. So let's go on to that topic. What has hearing your own voice? So this is where gear does matter, because if you have a Yeti, you can't hear your own voice, right? It doesn't let you hear what you sound like on the microphone. So how has hearing your own voice impacted your stream? This is why I say gear does matter, because if you can't hear your own voice, it will impact how you present and who you are on stream. So, Eat Your Meats, you brought this up first. So let's go. Tell us, because I want you to start with your first reaction when I told you you're going to hear your own voice and the transition.
My first reaction was, no, I don't want that at all.
Good. That's everybody's first reaction. The amount of people that tell me that is crazy. But go ahead.
I think it's partly, unless you've been like a professional stage performer, typically musician, right, that have in-ear monitors automatically and have that feedback, so you're used to it. I think part of it is the misunderstanding that there's like number one, that there's some sort of delay, right? And if you've ever tried to like talk and hear your own voice with a delay, you start to kind of talk really weird because you're slowing down because you can hear yourself, but just slightly off. So I thought it would be kind of like that and be something I have to adjust to. It's not. And then I think the second part is we don't like the sound of our own voice. But because you're hearing it at the same time that you're speaking, yeah, Snazzy's like, absolutely. Snazzy, you actually have a lovely voice.
Yeah, you do.
You do.
We all
It's
do.
very,
We all have
like-
lovely voices.
Yeah, it's got some
you all do
beautiful-
as well.
Yes.
That's all I'm
And
gonna say.
thank you. Yeah, but it allows you to know exactly what the people that are watching you are hearing. And it, I think, has helped me in terms of catching weird stuff that I do when I talk that I don't hear until like I watch the VOD. And I think it just makes you a better performer because you know what's coming out. If that makes any sense.
Well, you can play with the microphone. Like you can get
Yeah.
close to it and I know that I'm not too loud or crazy or, and you can get a bit far away and you kind of have a general sense of where your voice is at in the mix.
Yeah, it allows for a lot more comfort in knowing how you sound. And I do think that it helps a lot if you have a lack of confidence in like, am I talking this way or that way or too fast or am I loud enough? It really helps to give you that like instantaneous feedback. And I'm never muted anymore because I know if I'm muted.
That's a big one. Yeah, the soundboard is it's its own discussion for sure. That's not a reasonable thing to tell everybody to run out and buy, but I do think it should be up on your list of priorities above things like camera. So yeah, let's stick with hearing your own voice. Snazzy, you have the least good circumstance for hearing yourself, because you're hearing it through the Q2U, which is an approximation of what the stream mix sounds like. Whereas with the soundboard, it's a 1-to-1 mix. So
Yep.
Pickles, Eat Your Meats, and myself can all hear relative. I mean, your own voice is going to sound a little bit louder because it's
Yeah.
your ears and your throat and stuff. But you have a 1-to-1 presentation of with a soundboard. But with the Q2U, you don't get that. You have to approximate it. But you still get to hear your own voice. So what has that experience been like for you?
Well, now I know when Windows is messing with my microphone. Like I could 100% know when Windows has decided your microphone needs to be at 77% of its volume for reasons that we won't go into right now. I've definitely I'm a convert. I'm a convert of the church of the monitor. 100%. When Sonny first told me like, oh yeah, you're gonna hear a little bit of your voice through the Q2, I was like, oh god, here we go again. I don't like the sound of my voice, right? But like, it's kind of like Meat said, it's not like that. Yeah, I thought it would be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna talk, I'm gonna hear this like delayed version of myself, and it's not that. Like you hear it pretty much instantaneously, and it does, even with the approximation through the Q2U, it gives you a bit of an idea of like, I could tell if I'm too loud, right? Or I could tell if I'm too soft because I start not hearing what I'm expecting to hear. It takes maybe like 15 minutes to get used to, but like once you're there, once you're dialed in, you won't even notice it after that anymore. It's something that becomes natural, like any other kind of listening device. So
Yeah, and
Well, like
oh, go ahead.
if I'm in like a just a voice chat with somebody like off, not streaming, and I don't have monitoring turned on, I've gotten to the point where I just like feel like I'm muffled, so I have to turn voice monitoring on just to like feel normal now. When I'm just like playing games with friends.
Yeah, I never run not monitored.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Meetings, everything. Always hear myself. I like to hear myself talk now.
yeah. I mean,
Well, like-
this is what I was going to say. You hear your own voice. People don't think this way, but you hear your own voice if you have hearing. Like, when you talk, you hear your own voice. It's normal to hear your own voice. You hear it. This is just, if you get a good microphone and a good sound settings, it's not that different to hear it coming through earbuds or headphones. Maybe it's a little warmer, maybe there's some more texture, but you hear your voice when you talk. That's a normal part of existence. So this isn't like so strange. It's not like a super foreign step to suddenly hear your voice. You're just hearing it through a microphone. And, you know, I think it's helpful. I think it's the right decision. Highly Pickles, give us your movement from not hearing your voice to hearing your voice, because we should have talked about this already. But you what was your original microphone?
My original microphone was actually like a $20 lapel mic that I had.
Okay,
So
what
I
was
could,
the
like,
upgrade from that?
The upgrade from that was a condenser mic that I used for recording music. And then the upgrade from that was a $20 karaoke mic from Sing Party Wii U.
Awesome.
So a USB mic made
Yeah.
for the Wii U,
Correct.
which is basically a Rock Band or
Yeah.
whatever. Pick your favorite music game microphone.
And that microphone sounded better than the condenser mic that I had.
Right, because it was a dynamic mic. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
So if you're wondering if you should get a condenser microphone or a dynamic mic, just get a dynamic mic and call it a day. Unless you're a sound professional and you plan on recording guitar, just even then, like you could still get away with a Samsung Q2U, just no problem. So, yeah. What about hearing your own voice though, Pickles? Tell us your.
Well, I've been recording myself singing for a long time, so hearing my own voice wasn't weird to me. But the thing I didn't know until I had the soundboard is that like I understand why it's weird for people, because they expect like milliseconds of delay, even if they don't know that that's why it sounds weird. That's kind of why. But when you do like direct 1-to-1, it sounds like very natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's not weird at all when it's 1-to-1 monitoring.
And you also have you stream with your wife, so
Yeah.
Has that been a benefit, being able to hear each other?
It has been, because before we were able to hear each other, we would have to have one ear open at all times in order to hear each other like across the room. But now that we have this, we can like listen to the actual like the full game sound as well as each other. And I think it's helped her too, because of like with what Meets was saying, like now she knows how loud or quiet she's being at any given time, so she can speak at an appropriate volume given how loud the game is and how loud I'm being and stuff like that. And we talk over each other a lot less now too.
That's
Because we can actually like hear each other.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah. So you don't need to go out and buy the most expensive stuff, but you do need to try. I think what we're trying to communicate here is that you should try to figure out why you're getting the gear that you want and what benefit that gear is going to give you, right? You don't need to buy an SM7B. You could buy a soundboard for the price of an SMB and a Samsung Q2U. For the price of just the microphone, you can get a great microphone. It's hard to complain about how Highland Pickles and Snazzy Bastards sound, right? They sound fantastic. It's not an expensive mic. It also works on consoles, by the way. So because it's just a general USB device, you could literally plug it into your PlayStation and use it on the PlayStation. Xbox, same thing. So these are kind of like holistically helpful tools to have. You know, you can't plug an XLR microphone directly into, just an XLR mic into your Xbox. So think about the upgrades that you're trying to get. Yes, gear does matter. You can't just phone it in. I think we're in a much more highly competitive space now. Like, streaming is so popular. Everybody's starting to stream. And a lot of viewers are bouncing around. And when they land on your stream, if your stream sounds bad, or the mix is bad, the music's too loud, or the music's too quiet, or whatever, the game sound is too low, and it's a cutscene, and you're watching the cutscene, but nobody can hear it. This is all going to have a negative impact on a brand new viewer. You really need, with the soundboard, like the song gets a little bit too loud, I can just bring it down just a touch by reaching over. I don't have to alt tab and like start messing with my computer. I don't have to do all kinds of crazy extra things and worry about. Soundboard is that upgrade gives you a new tool to play with for your stream. A good microphone is there. So really what you want to think about is whether or not these things are going to benefit you as a streamer. What does the upgrade do? A lot of times it's not going to benefit you to go from a Samsung Q2U to an SM7B. Like that's not a good upgrade. Getting the right capture card could be $20, or it could be an investment in something a little more expensive than that, because the $20 one hitches sometimes, right? And you want to get rid of that problem. What matters is that you find gear that works and that's good. Don't lean into the extremes. It really bothers me that people spend like way too much money on like everything. The best microphone, and a Go XLR, which is not, I don't think, the best interface. Camera, the best possible camera. And then they don't know how to use any of it. You're better off spending. Gear is really about you figuring out how to use this stuff and make it sound good. So don't go all out, and also don't give up too early. One of the things I've also run into is people's attitudes. I'll be like, you need to buy a Samsung Q2U to upgrade your stream audio, and they'll be like, I don't have that money. And I'm like, forever? Like, I'm not telling you need to buy it today, but you should start trying to figure out how to get that thing, right? Start saving $10 a month, and in 7 months buy it if it takes you that long. But at least you got it at some point, right? So there needs to be a little bit more thought put into all of this than just kind of giving up and saying, I can't afford new gear. Or stop looking at the most expensive stuff and start looking for stuff that actually will benefit your streaming experience. Price is not always like the most quality thing. I don't want people to go out and buy the most expensive thing. I want them to buy the best thing, the best bang for buck possible.
Value.
Yes.
That's the word we're looking
for. Yeah.
I think someone brought something up in chat too. That I think we've mentioned before, but bears repeating. If you need a piece of equipment that helps with the stream experience, ask your community to help. Right?
Yep.
They'll
I set
give
up
you
tip
money.
goals. I set
Give
up
you
tip
money.
goals for my cameras, mics, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I knew it would directly benefit their experience. So it was an easy thing to ask for.
Yeah.
People will pay you to not sound screechy, believe it or not.
Streaming upgrades should be about two things. They should be about your viewer's experience and your experience. If an upgrade, you should buy things that make streaming easier so that you don't have to fuss with a bunch of things or worry about a bunch of things. The soundboard, there is a balance here. Like Windows likes to do updates that break sound, but this is true for anything. If you buy a Go XLR, you're going to deal with this. There's not a single computer interface that you're going to buy that's not going to break with Windows updates at some point, right? The soundboard, has its quirks. Every little piece of equipment you have is going to have its quirks. So there's actually kind of a price you have to pay even when you try to save money, and that's time, right? And a lot of times you're spending a lot of time on fixing and troubleshooting and making your stream work. That's where you might want to think about spending your money first, is how can I get to streaming? How can I make sure when I turn my stream on, it's just working? That if you have, this is the next place I tell people to try to upgrade is the camera. Mm-hmm. This AverMedia camera that I'm using looks better than a DSLR. It was just on a sale for $100 for Black Friday. That's an insane price. This camera saves the settings. So how many times a week do you have to go and mess with your camera, Pickles?
Every stream.
Before every single stream.
Yeah.
What about you, Snazzy?
Literally every time I turn off OBS.
Okay. And eat your meats?
Nope.
Yeah.
I don't touch it.
You just leave it alone, right? Which is why the autofocus comes back on and the frame rate gets weird sometimes. Yeah.
But this isn't my streaming camera. This is actually my potato camera that I found in my basement. That's not even mine. I think it's my partner's. And you just tweak the settings and it looks fine. Like it's not like amazing,
right.
But it looks fine.
Right. So the nice thing about the AverMedia is that you set the settings and you're done. And it's going to look the way that you set it every time you turn on your computer. The only quirk I have with it is sometimes I have to unplug the back and plug it back in to get it to show up in OBS. That's almost nothing compared to dealing with the C920. The C920 is just too software driven, and it's a great camera. It can look good, but man, it is the amount of hours I've spent in my life just looking at C920 settings before every stream is too high. It's too damn high.
Every time I close my eyes, I see that stupid font.
The C922 is not fine. It's got the exact same software and the same problems. The thing about the C920 series is you can get lucky if your lighting is right and your camera doesn't ever move very much and you don't plug it into different USB ports. You can get lucky and have it look good. I've seen your stream though. I'm not going to call you out so that people, you don't feel too bad, but you could stand to watch my video on how to tweak it and get a higher quality image out of it. And that's what I'm talking about. The C920 has a potato quality image until you mess with the settings, which is why Pickles is messing with the settings before every stream. You could stream like everybody else, for sure. You could just plug the C920 in and leave the auto settings and it'll look okay. But once you actually dial in the C920, turn the sharpness up, set the white balance manually, turn the backlight compensation off, turn the gain down, then it looks really good. And the difference is actually striking. So yeah, you can get away with not doing anything for sure. But you're not really pushing the quality of your gear at that point. You're just kind of like phoning it in because it looks good enough, which, if that's working for you, then that's working for you. If you're stuck with 10 viewers, maybe you should think about dialing in your camera a little bit more and making a better first impression with new viewers. The
C920 has this really annoying habit of every time you turn it off, it reduces the exposure down by a level.
Mm-hmm.
And if I turn it off and on long enough, it'll just be a black screen because it'll literally set the exposure to like negative whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Fun times.
I have 3 C920s.
Yeah.
They're all hooked up at the same time.
Oh, you really need to upgrade your cameras so that you don't have to do that anymore.
I thought about it. I saw the Ava Media was on sale, and I thought about it, but we're currently saving money right now. So
Yeah, no, that's fine. In the future, at some point, it's a good upgrade. It's
Well,
also
shooting.
not a perfect camera. I've had to figure out the right settings to get it dialed in. Even when I'm doing this podcast, when I'm doing all this, like gathering the streams and like capturing all this stuff to OBS and recording it, it's not 100% the way that I wish it was. But it's a very good camera for a regular stream, setup. I just have to turn stuff down. This camera could look even better than it does right now. I just had to turn stuff down for my situation so that my computer isn't choking. So
I think you can make up for a lot of that with just thoughtful lighting too.
Yes,
I think
lighting
there
is
are plenty of
massive.
people that have like good cameras. I have a Logitech Brio. This is not the one I'm using here, and it does fine as
Yeah.
long as I don't let it autofocus and
Yeah.
and catch the white balance when it goes off randomly because it does that. But being well lit and thinking about how the lighting affects how you look is really important too. And that doesn't mean you have to buy expensive lights, right? You don't need to get the Elgato ring light. Or whatever.
No, I'm using $20 ring lights.
You don't, yeah.
I'm using $20 floodlights you just need the right amount of light. I'm using 4 lights to light me.
Right.
Well, I didn't realize until I started working with you how important lighting was to just like frame rate and stuff on a camera.
Mm-hmm.
Like it changes so much about just how cameras receive information.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because
crazy.
it's always trying to focus on you, and if the background is lighter than the foreground, it really just makes stuff look terrible.
Right, and there's all this compensation stuff built into the software. If there's not
Right,
enough
it's
light,
grainy.
yeah, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to just bump up the gain, and then it gets like a grainy mess. It's better to have a ton of light on you than to have not enough light, for sure.
Yes.
Light-
If you're not warm and kind of uncomfortable with how much light is on your face, you're probably not lit enough.
Yeah, I would say if you don't mind dialing the C920 in, invest in lights. If you're tired of dialing, well, you need to invest in lights no matter what. That doesn't have to be expensive either. You should buy the cheapest desk mount ring lights on the planet. That you can seriously like. These are plastic crap. Cheap ring lights. I'm using cheap RGB floodlights, to as my overhead lights. If I change the color on them, I can make them colors. They don't.
My background RGB is literally an RGB bulb for $10 plus one of the lizard lamps because they're
Yeah.
cheap.
Yeah.
So easy. We got a disco party from Pickles.
Yeah.
Disco party, yeah.
Yeah. These lights are so cheap. They're like $25 for 2 of them, and you can easily mount them. I have one mounted on like a monitor arm that I can't use because I don't have a monitor on it, and I have one mounted on a $10 mic stand. They're not hard to mount. I had some mounted on the wall at one point. I just drilled them right into the wall. So, it's not about spending like the Elgato ring lights. Nice because you can control it on an app and stuff, but I just have a little remote.
The app doesn't work. So I didn't know any better, and I actually have Elgato key lights because I didn't know any better when I bought them. And the app is so finicky. It's actually not very reliable at all. Like sometimes it won't connect right.
That can be the problem. That's why I like these because it's just like this always works.
And you can't manually adjust them. You have to adjust them through the app.
Right. So if it's
I
not
know
working, you're
Elgato's never going to
screwed.
give me money, but that's okay.
My cheap makeup selfie lights have the 3 buttons on their interface. It's a brighter, softer, change color. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
And on,
other-
right? On and off.
and on. Yeah, I guess on and off. Yeah, as well. But like,
Sometimes simple is better.
Mm-hmm.
I have the same thing. I have like this ring light just has the buttons on the cable. That can make, and the floodlights have an infrared remote. That can make your life way easier. They do sell these ring lights so that they can hook up to your phone and stuff. But I'm like, do you want to have to go to your phone, put your fingerprint in? Okay, hold on. Let me change my lights. See how long this is taking? Like, okay, I got to go to the app. Okay, I think it's this one. I forgot what the icon looks like. forget it. Like, this is super simple, and I think it's better sometimes to keep your streaming set up as
Control
simple.
my lights on my phone, but my lights do have a little phone grip.
This is actually a good.
That's what they were made for, actually.
This is actually a good point. I think in a lot of ways it can be a bad idea to invest in heavily software-driven things. You're already like heavily invested in software when it comes to streaming because you have to rely on OBS. Has OBS ever crashed on anyone? Yeah. Has it?
Yes.
Do things break in
That's a
OBS?
question.
Do you ever start your stream and it doesn't? Something's not working right, and you don't know until you went live, and chat's like, "Hey,
Every time now.
Highly and Pickles, you sound weird."
This is crashing right now.
Yeah. So we're so heavily reliant on software. This is why I don't like the Go XLRs, because it's another piece. It's it's hardware, but it's heavily driven by software. The Elgato stuff is all heavily driven by software. If that software freezes and the only way to fix it is restarting your computer, you just killed your stream momentum. And now you got to restart your computer and hope it comes back. We've all been in this situation, right, where we went to restart our computer and it went into like a repairing mode or Windows updates or something.
That is my nightmare.
Yeah, and then
Although it's always a good excuse if you're running late just to be like, sorry guys, Windows is updating.
yeah. Well, this is bad if it's in the middle of a stream, and the only way to fix it.
true.
One of the benefits of having a separate stream computer is you can leave your stream running while you restart your equipment. Right? You can be like, oh, shoot, my gaming computer is on the fritz. Let me restart it. And you're still on stream. Your soundboard's hooked up or your mic's hooked up to the stream computer. That can be one of the benefits of that. And it happens a lot.
I never update my OBS because I only ever open it when I'm about to stream. And I was like, I'm going to
As
go
somebody
back.
who also does this,
Deliberate.
kids, don't try this at home. Please update your OBS once in a while.
I update my OBS immediately so I can tell you guys if something's wrong.
Yes.
I feel like it's my job to figure out the bugs and stuff, because if anybody's going to figure out how to fix it, it's probably also me. So I'm like, you ask me, right? Just like you
And
tweet
guys,
tweet
if
at
you
me.
need someone, if you need someone to give you these update issues,
Yeah,
join Infinite
IQ.
Quality Live,
That's true.
because this is free information that is provided.
True.
But I definitely echo that idea of like the more layers of software you add, the harder it is to troubleshoot if something breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that can be a huge challenge
Snapcam.
if you're understanding. Yeah, I know. I love Snapcam. There's like, I love it. I hate it, but I love it. Right. And occasionally it just decides it's not going to work. And then you just get the Snapcam image instead of your camera, and it's borked.
Yay.
So it happens, but whew.
Yep. So again, we're just kind of like honing in on specifics here, but the idea is figure out like what gear is going to benefit you the most. Don't just buy the most popular thing. The Go XLR is someday that thing is just going to be a giant paperweight because they're going to stop updating it, or it's not going to work on an operating system that comes out in the future. That's not true of these like analog soundboards. This stuff is all hooked up to like normal old sound cards on your computer. You're not going to run into a situation. The Samsung Q2U is not going to suddenly stop working. It uses like the baseline drivers for audio. If you have specialized software or a company like Elgato, I mean, who knows? They could run into a controversy or go bankrupt or be bought by another company, and then you end up with drivers that are not going to be updated for that could happen for any company, to be fair, but I don't like putting so much equipment into the hands of software companies. If you can get lights that run off of a remote like this, you're probably better off to some degree. So
And not to call anybody out too bad, but Logitech is the king of this, in my opinion, where it's like, oh, if they just stuck to hardware and stopped putting all the stuff in between me and their hardware.
oh, seriously,
I would be so happy.
G-Hub is such a nightmare, right?
I can't use it. I literally cannot use G-Hub. It will not function.
And it doesn't even have half the settings that are the most important settings you want to turn off for your cameras. Like, you can't turn off backlight compensation. You can't adjust the gain. They're not even sliders in the software. The
Yeah.
low light. It's like, why?
Razor's challenging too, because there's actually like multiple apps for like a product. So I have the light up ears and I love them and they're wonderful, but you have to have like two different things open and sometimes it just doesn't work and you have to reset it and
One
people
for
will give you
each ear.
crap because it's not working.
Yeah.
And
The-
it's like you have to decide what level of BS you have to put up with to
Right.
have like some flashy stuff. And I think it's good to have a couple things that you're like, I'm willing to occasionally deal with the BS to have a flashy thing. But if you create like everything is a flashy thing, then it gets too complicated.
What a risk that becomes.
It's a risk. Yeah, it's a huge risk.
Yeah. So, and this is going to be where I'm going to kind of segue us into a more, conceptual discussion, and use another example here for like a piece of hardware that can help. If there's a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people struggling with emulation, and this is another one of those like software versus hardware situations. If you want to play like older games, emulating can be okay. But I've seen a lot of streamers like turn their stream on and download the emulator, and like that whole stream becomes fixing and setting up the emulator rather than playing the game on the emulator. 40 minutes into the stream, you're like, okay, the game's running, but why does my controller not work? How do I get my controller working in the emulator? And so
That's just bad preparation.
true. So if you're going to emulate on stream, like to play an older game, this can happen with Steam too. This can happen with old games on Steam or GOG.
Oh my God. Don't even.
Yeah, or if you're trying to play Dark Souls 2 and your controller's not connecting, this is one of the things I say. I love PC gaming. I think PC gaming's great. There is a huge benefit to streaming games on console. Not from a console, not like streaming from the console, but like using the console. Playing Switch games, you turn the Switch on, you use the capture card, and you stream. You stream the game. There's
Word of caution. Take it as from somebody who had to rebuy Sekiro for his PlayStation because his computer refuses to see any kind of controller with the game.
insane, and it can
Insane.
happen. That's a newer game, right? It can happen
That's
with
a brand new
anything.
game.
So one of the things is if you are going to be using PC and emulation, which is fine, the different discussion if we're going to talk about the legality or whatever. But if you're going to be using anything that has emulation or you're going to be playing a game on stream, always test, right? Test your equipment before you go live. If it's a new game, make sure your controller works. If it's especially if it's emulation is the big one, and there are solutions to emulation that you can invest in equipment wise, and I think the Mister is a good example of this, where if you're gonna play a bunch of old consoles, Super Nintendo, and that stuff is not available on the Switch, which is emulation, but it seems to be a bit more stable when you're talking about the Switch. But there are places people can probably think, wow, if you go look at the Mister, it's pretty expensive now. It's about $70 more than when I bought one because the chip shortage and all the supply chain and stuff. You can look at the Mister and think it's a $400 device, even though it covers Genesis, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, pretty much every old computer, every old console, Neo Geo, TurboGrafx 16. It covers everything. It's cheaper to buy that than it is to buy a Super Nintendo and a ROM cart and the high definition cables or some kind of converter for it. Just getting the Super Nintendo working is going to be more expensive than the Mister alone. Super Nintendo is an easier one to emulate, so you're not going to run into as many issues there. But there can be something said about it can be cheaper for you, the streamer, because you can spend more time streaming and enjoying your stream instead of troubleshooting. GameCube emulation can be a nightmare. Wii emulation can be a nightmare. Getting a Wiimote working on your computer can be a nightmare. These things could take hours just to get working, just to stream one game. When you could have went to Goodwill and bought a Wii for like $40 and a $12 HDMI adapter and streamed the game. Just then you're done. Or if you have these old consoles just sitting in the basement, closet, or attic, just get them out and then buy the stuff to make them work. you'll spend less time with the right equipment. And this is where equipment does matter. If you can think that streaming emulated things is going to be easier, but I've been in streams where I've had to be like, hey, by the way, I know you're emulating the game, but it's stretched out. Like, this is an old game. It's supposed to be 4x3, like this, and you're playing Resident Evil, and Jill's got this wide booty.
Like that's a bad thing.
It's pretty bad if you ask me. But
It's a feature. No.
and this is something you need to consider too. Growth on Twitch. You got two people that care. That you got two kinds of viewers: people that don't care, and people that care. You always want to kind of cater your stream towards the people that care rather than the people that don't care, because the people that don't care, right?
Right. They're not going to be like, your stream's too nice, I'm leaving.
Right. They don't care at every level. But if 50% of the people are like, ugh, he's streaming 16:9 stretched out. It's Super Mario, and Mario's like, super wide. I can't watch this. I just can't watch it. You're gonna bother that person, which then makes it harder for you to grow your stream, because now you're segregating out this group of people that do care. So you want to kind of always cater your stream to that audience, because the other group doesn't care at all. They don't really matter. They'll watch because you're streaming.
Nobody has ever said to me, Snazzy, your voice is too rich. I can't stand this. I have to leave.
But they have said you're too quiet, right?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Yeah. So I think less now since you got the Q2U, but memories.
Sometimes it also depends on also, if I had one, just a side note, if I could, if any video game developer is ever watching this, please stop making your cutscenes extremely loud compared to the rest of the game.
That's
like commercials. Yeah.
That's the great thing about a soundboard, is you can just reach over and be like, this. Or if they're too quiet, like some older games like Soul Reaver, you'll go into a cutscene and it'll be like, and you're like, I can't hear anything.
I'm a living example of why you should buy a soundboard, kids.
Yeah, soundboard is probably the most beneficial upgrade, as testified by this podcast so far. So getting the right equipment can help you save time troubleshooting and fixing things. That's the thing that I think people should focus on, is if you're buying equipment, buy stuff that makes your life easier. It may not seem like it, but investing in an actual like a mister, if you're going to play old games, so that you don't have to mess with emulators and set up a bunch of software and hope that they run right. And plus there's some cred with that too, right? Like if you go into retro and you're streaming, the top streams all say original console, original hardware, or a mister is as close as you're going to get to that anyway. So anyway, how much time? Well, I think we're close to the end here, so maybe we should go into our summary thoughts of all of this stuff. The last thing I actually did want to hit on was the controllers thing, right? We've all had situations where a controller doesn't work.
Ooh. No. What?
That never happened. Oh,
yeah. This is where you kind of want to people will try to save money and buy they'll buy whatever controller, and then it doesn't work in a game. There is a benefit to getting an Xbox controller if you're on PC, because Windows, Microsoft, the Xbox controller just tends to work most of the time. There's no perfect controller when it comes to computer. So if you're stuck without a console, if you don't have a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or PlayStation 4 or whatever to stream games on, or you only own the game on PC and you need to stream it from there, the controller, getting a good controller can also be a good investment for your stream, because it needs to just work. I've had problems with every controller, so good luck. Mm-hmm. I like the 8BitDo controllers. If you buy that little 8BitDo Bluetooth adapter that looks like bricks from Mario Brothers or something, it's got a little button on it, and you just sync whatever controller. And I've had really good luck with that. So if you're looking for a wireless solution with PC, I think that dongle, this is a good stocking stuffer. We're in December, $20. It's a little $20 adapter. And they keep updating it so that the newer controllers will connect with it. So that's a good way to go. And again, these things you don't have to break the bank with like the most expensive controller. So just look up 8BitDo and look for the little Bluetooth dongle. There's a gray one and a red one. I think the red one.
8-bit dough.
Yeah, 8BitDo. 8BitDo. I say dough.
8-bit dough.
8BitDo.
What about them 8 bits though?
Yeah. 8 the number 8 BITDO. 8BitDo. 8BitDo.
Sounds like a cryptocurrency.
Right.
It does,
yeah.
doesn't it?
They make really great controllers. I have like an entire wall of them. So, yeah.
What if you're someone who literally does not like any other controller except one?
Sounds like a personal problem.
I know.
Well, we just
If
talked
you can
about
get it to
how
work,
much
though.
how much jank you want to put up with
Yeah,
for the
how much
flashy
jank
things,
do you
right?
want?
Yeah.
I know.
They have controllers that are very close in feel to the PlayStation controllers. They have controllers that are very close to feel in the Super Nintendo. If you like, that one, that one's great. If you like the Xbox style controller, just an Xbox controller. Just do an Xbox controller. The Switch one takes a lot of work and setup and stuff like that. So, yeah.
This is like a cheap third-party brand Switch controller that's actually just a Switch innerwear inside an Xbox controller. Do you know how I know? Because when I plugged it into a computer one time, it recognized it as an Xbox controller.
Yeah.
But it cost me, what is it? I think it was $30, and it works
Oh, that's
literally
good.
just as good as a $70 Switch controller.
Yeah.
Saved $40 by buying third-party.
Dude,
Yeah.
I have a controller graveyard.
You got to ship
Like,
them all to
next
me
to
so
me.
I can fix them, but that's a different conversation. So the barrier of entry to streaming. Do you need good equipment to stream? You need equipment to stream, right? You need a computer, you need a camera, you need a microphone. Do you need the best? No. You do need good enough, which I think is what we're trying to kind of like the message we're trying to get out here is you need good enough. Go for good enough. If you don't know what good enough is, message me, tweet at me, ask me. I have a pretty good idea. I have a room full of equipment that I bought just to literally test. I have a Samsung
even-
Q2U. Go ahead.
Even if you're, for some reason, afraid of talking to Sunny, which I don't know why that would be the case.
Don't be.
I'm
Ask
scary.
anybody.
I'm so scary.
Ask anybody. If you ask your favorite streamer. I guarantee you that unless they're a complete d-bag, they will give you 10 seconds of their time if you ask them
Yeah.
about hardware.
Ask
Streamers
these
love
guys.
talking about hardware.
Yeah, ask us. Yeah.
Like,
Don't ask
you see-
me.
if
No,
you see
ask
don't
your
ask
mates.
me.
She'll
Somebody,
tell you
you
what
know,
I
yeah.
told her.
you want something really good with their camera, be like, hey, what camera are you using? They'll tell you, believe me. Nobody's going to be like, I can't tell you what camera I'm using. I must hoard it to myself.
Right.
Nobody does that.
Right. And I don't think people need to run out and buy a DSLR and stuff. Not when this AverMedia camera is out. My DSLR looks worse. I have a DSLR in my setup. It looks worse than this camera. So I don't think people need to run out and buy the best stuff. They just need to get good enough stuff. And you want to kind of be at least competitive in this space so that you got to imagine people are leaving like the Joe Rogan podcast and then coming to your stream. It shouldn't be such a huge, stark
Yeah, I don't know
contrast.
if those people would, but
Well, you know what I mean. They're just watched like one of the top end streamers who sound and look good, and then they come to your stream, and if your camera looks kind of potato, they might leave. So the point is the quality, not the content here, people. So the best stream setup is one that works. You got to put the effort and the time in to make the equipment work. That's really, really key to this discussion. You don't.
And if you have a bunch of stuff, just try to hide it.
Yeah.
I streamed on one monitor and a TV. The monitor was on a TV tray, like one of those fold-out TV trays. We were sitting in camping chairs. Just
Embrace the scuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use what you
Gotta
got.
make
pretend
it
like
part of
it's
your
not there.
brand.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you see those YouTube videos where they build like homes in the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The wilderness.
And also, like just a quick side note, it also there is a danger of overproducing when you're just starting out.
True.
This is specifically
Oh,
for
yeah.
people who are just like literally it's your first stream. If you do get all the fancy stuff, right, there then comes sometimes an expectation for your content and for all the other stuff to be just as good as your hardware. And if you're just starting out, unless you have a history of being in the entertainment industry, I guarantee you that you will not be as good as your hardware if you buy all the top end before you ever even stream to anybody, right? There is no shame. I streamed for a while with a headset microphone. There is no shame in your first streams being janky and on just absolute garbage hardware, because people understand that you're new and that you're just getting into this. It's like,
I like this. This is a good final thought from you, Snazzy. Let's go to Pickles. Do you have a final thought for us?
My final thought was hide the scuff.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, true. Okay. All right. Eat your meats. Your turn.
Try to learn the equipment that you buy so that you can get the most out of it. You don't have to make some of the mistakes that we all make and get the shiny Yeti and the Elgato. I'm talking about myself. The Elgato stuff and like not really know how to use it, right? It's better to get stuff that's less expensive and optimize it, and take it step by step. You don't have to get a million things all at once. Make those decisions of how to prioritize it and really try to get to know your equipment so that you can get the best out of it, because you can do a lot with a little bit.
Agree. Yep. This is all good. I think the final thing I would say is you're never really done with your stream upgrades. There's always something. You may be done with I don't need to buy a better mic. I don't need to buy a better soundboard. There are aspects of your stream that you could kind of get to a level where you literally don't need to ever upgrade again. But when it comes to things like cameras, that stuff, there's always going to be new tech coming out. There's always going to be new options coming out. And sometimes it's not even something you need to buy. Sometimes it's a new bot came out. And like streamer.bot came out. And now we all save money because we don't have to pay for a bot that we were all paying for previously, because streamer.bot's free. And sometimes the best upgrades are they don't cost you anything except more time, the expense of putting the effort into using the software right or whatever it is. So, but you're never really,
and you have to be ready to put that in, like that effort in as well. Like you have to live with the fact that nothing is future proof. Like you can future proof to a degree.
Yeah.
But at some point down the line, you're going to have to replace and upgrade.
You're always upgrading your stream. Always. It's just a part of being a streamer. You're always going to have a new toy come out, new kit, new equipment, new camera, new this or new that. To your guys' previous point, it's a good idea to not do all of it at once. You don't want to start your stream with you're never really done with your alerts. You're never really done with your merch. You're never really done with your emotes. These are just all in a phase that you want to get them in a good spot. And then, next year, maybe you get better. And then streaming is like an upgrade thing. It's like a part of what we do. You're going to be constantly upgrading your stream. Maybe you're going to get better lights. Maybe you're going to get different tech or better monitors or whatever it is. That's just how this goes. So, you want to get good at figuring out how to play with the tech. That's always going to be constantly true throughout this whole thing. You're going to want to be willing to learn how to use equipment and apply that knowledge across the spectrum moving forward. So that's it. That's the podcast. Thank you guys so much. And I hope that we all gave you food for thought and some places maybe you guys can go spend to upgrade. If you guys are looking for equipment to upgrade to, obviously my first recommendation for audio is the Samsung Q2U. You're looking for a microphone. I have a video on the Samsung Q2U on the IQ YouTube page. If you need a capture card, just get one of those like cheap $20 ones. They do work. They can work. Make sure that you also get an audio extractor so that you can get the audio into your PC. So I'll be making videos on that for sure on the IQ YouTube channel. If you guys have any questions on this stuff, or if you want to talk about this stuff and you're not a part of our community, go to infinitequality.live and apply to be a member. If you're an affiliate on Twitch, that's all it requires. You're an affiliate and that you follow TOS, and you can apply to be in our community. And that is the show. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
YouTubers, don't forget to like and subscribe with your thumbs up and bell button. Thank you.
And
And
Be part of the
Spotify
notifications
people
Is
do
there
whatever it is that
Spotify?
you Spotify people
What
do.
does Spotify do?
What
Do the
what
things
do they do,
Spotify
actually?
does.
There's
Like
a
and
thumb,
follow the
right?
podcast.
Yeah. like
There's a
and
heart on
buttons.
Spotify.
Do the button
Yeah.
things on the
I
places.
get it.
You guys are great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody in chat. Appreciate you guys, and we will see you. We may not be in the announcement later about whether or not there's a podcast next week. I'll let you guys know. December is going to be kind of a wonky month for most of us, so keep a heads up on the Twitter. You can follow me at The Sunny Machine. I post about this stuff, or you can follow Infinite Quality Live on Twitter to get updates. See you guys in the next one. Thank you so much.
And whatever you do, don't buy a Blue Yeti.
Yetis are bad.
Don't buy a
Elgato.
Elgato will never sponsor us.
Not
Make X, but
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry.